Halo Combat Evolved was one of the first games I ever owned. It came in my family's first Xbox along with Munch's Odyssey, which I played once for about 5 minutes and then forgot about, Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell, which I sucked at, and The Simpsons Road Rage. We did have another console before that, but it melted after one use and I can't for the life of me remember what it was. For the most part of 2002, when I wasn't racking up the dough on Simpsons Road Rage, I was amusing myself killing grunts on Halo with my friend Robin. When 343 Industries announced that it was going to be taking over the Halo franchise, I was skeptical. I thought that after Halo 3, the Master Chief and Cortana were finally at peace. Surely any attempt at reviving the franchise would be nothing more than a big fat cash grab. Unfortunately, I think I may have been right, as it soon transpired that they were planning on making not only a Halo 4, but a Halo 5 and 6 as well. My entire opinion of the revived Halo franchise would ride on what I thought of Halo 4. That said, let's take a look. The story is little more than Halo 3 continued. It starts 4 years after the events of Halo 3 in the cryotube where we last saw the Chief and Cortana. After a rather rude awakening, our heroes end up on a Forerunner planet where we meet our new enemies, the Promethean Knights, bionic beings that are the result of an attempt to give humans immortality by turning them into digital freaks, the reasoning being that the Flood only eat living tissue. They're also working with the Covenant. Not really sure why. Cortana has passed her working lifespan and is in danger of dying of rampancy, a condition that's making her emotionally unstable. The Chief takes it upon himself to get her back to Earth by any means necessary in order to find Dr. Halsey, the woman who created Cortana in the first place using her own DNA. We see the Doctor in the opening cinematic. She was in charge of the Spartan project and seems to be particularly interested in the Master Chief. Now, this is just a theory, but I suspect that Halsey might actually be the Master Chief's mother. It would explain why she's so interested in him, although it would also make his relationship with Cortana rather Freudian. Ugh. There's also something about the Chief being the chosen one, known as the Reclaimer, and the only one who can stop the weird-looking dick from... well, I don't know exactly what he wants to do, but I doubt it's anything good. There's this thing called the Composer, although I'm not sure what music has to do with any of this. I'll be honest, I think the Halo story had run its course at the end of Halo 3, and while the story has a lot more drama than the previous games, and it does have its hell yeah moments which will really please die-hard Halo fans, it feels more like a fanfic than an actual Halo game. In Combat Evolved, Cortana was a hard nut like the Chief, ready for action and straight to the point, and in every game she becomes more of a damsel in distress, and this game continues that trend to an extreme. She does redeem herself at the end though, so I'm not too fussed about that. The game is quite slow starting out and you'll definitely feel like you've been here before, but bear with it because it does get better after a few levels. The level design is rather samey, but if you like shiny futuristic looking stuff that's so high quality that you can actually see objects rendering as you walk towards them, then you'll probably like the level design in this game. But how does it compare to its predecessors? Well, first of all, I found it more challenging, but that might be partially to do with the controls. For some reason they've relocated crouch to the B button and it's next to useless. I don't understand the point in having a button that makes you an inch shorter than you were previously. Grenades are absolute piss on this game, and blowing up vehicles creates much less of a spectacle. Needlers are still fairly OP, and plasma pistols still suck. The new guns look pretty shiny, but they're basically just the existing weapons in disguise. The bolt shot is the same as the plasma pistol in just about every practical way. The suppressor is like the assault rifle. There's a gun with sniper-like characteristics, a shotgun that does about as much damage as a well-aimed sneeze, and grenades that... well, actually, what do these things do? Does anyone know? They have added a much needed sprint function, but you need to already be moving before you click in the analog stick, so it took me a while to figure out. There are 8 missions in all, 10 if you count the opening and closing cutscenes, which the game does. My favourite mission was Reclaimer because you get given a jetpack at the start. I really wish they'd just let us have a jetpack throughout. Forget the shield, forget whatever this is, just give me a jetpack. The campaign isn't particularly long, which I wouldn't have minded if it hadn't ended so abruptly. It just sort of ends, and I wasn't sure what to think about it. As a single player experience, the game was pretty boring, but as a social multiplayer experience, it was actually pretty good. I would recommend playing with friends if you're new to the Halo franchise, and even if you're an old school Halo fan, there's still something to enjoy here. If you like watching the Master Chief do cool stuff, then you won't be disappointed, but you will have to get past all the needless bullshit that comes with it. Who's the bald guy, and how does he know who I am? Who's this woman, and why does she have Lord Voldemort's nose? What's all this about the Master Chief being the chosen one? Was all of this meant to happen? If so, then what was the point in the first 3 games? Couldn't we have just made the story about some other poor faceless sod with no personality? Yeah, they actually keep drawing attention to that throughout the game. At one point, Cortana even asks the Chief to figure out which one of them is the robot. Pretty deep stuff. The main problem this game has is that 343 have obviously put a lot of effort into trying to make the story an emotional roller coaster, and whether or not they achieved that is very much open to interpretation. This was always going to be difficult to do with a franchise based around such a neutral character. They actually did a pretty good job, all things considered, but I can't help but think that if they put the same amount of effort into making an original game, it'd be spectacular. We'll see what happens, but I think if 343 decide to move away from Halo and create their own franchises, they could potentially become quite the players in the modern video game market. Halo 4 gets a 66 from me. It would have been higher, but for the whole dead horse factor. If you ask me, Halo's had its time, and as such, I'm not sure I'm completely comfortable with Halo 4 as an idea. I suspect I will play it again, but only on 2-player co-op with Robin when I'm around his house. Halo has always been my favourite shooter franchise for co-op gameplay, and you'll be happy to know that they pretty much left it intact. The game has a couple of quick-time events where player 1 has to take control and player 2 gets to sit and watch, but these are only found at the beginning and end, and so it's not that bad. With all that said, Halo 4 definitely shows off what 343 is capable of, and for that reason, I look forward to seeing what they come out with in the future.
Truce. Please.
Truce it will be. Why were we fighting in the first place?
You know, I really can't remember.
Neither could I.
Huh. Well. Ice cream?
Yeah, sure. What's your favourite flavour?
Lactose intolerant, but it's the thought that counts.
I like a bit of chocolate chip every now and then. You know. It's really fancy.